What's up, everyone? Welcome to another Cracker Crumbs update. Oh man, gonna have some fun now. Gonna do some reviews on some of the comics I got a chance to read. I read quite a few since my last update. Sorry there isn't any intro as of right now for the past couple of dates. They've been kind of giving me problems on YouTube with it, so who knows. A lot of reviews here, a lot of reviews. Not only am I going to do a lot of reviews, but I'm going to get on quite a rant probably, and I'm going to discuss the future of cracka. But let me do the reviews real fast. And before I do that, I need a sip of some Pepsi here, because it is the choice of the new generation. Anyway, that's right, Pepsi. Pay me. I got a chance to read Avengers Arena #2, which is basically, I guess, Marvel's version of the Hunger Games. And the first one was I was looking at these people. I'm like, who the hell are these characters? Because I didn't read Avengers Academy or some of the other ones in there, so I didn't have a clue. I mean, I knew some of X-23, Darkhawk, and that was pretty much it. And then Arcade suddenly has superpowers, which, if you were watching Comic Talk podcast, or I think that's how you say it. I think that's how it's spelled. Anyway, Captain Cummings podcast. A comic book mom was talking about it. She said that it's basically it's Murder World, so Arcade can pretty much do what he wants. Which I didn't think of that. I'm looking at it as, that's I guess the most logical explanation is that they're in Murder World, and Arcade controls Murder World. I used to keep thinking of the old school Murder World where you had like giant mechanical stuff going after you and stuff like that. I didn't really think. But it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. But this one was interesting. Apparently it focuses on this girl who's basically Deathlock. They call her Deathlocket. And she winds up scaring somebody, Red Raven I think she was called, into snapping her own neck into the ceiling or something like that. But that's pretty much all this is so far. It's basically Marvel's version of Hunger Games. But wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad at all. I'm curious to see how it goes, because that's, how they get you. Moving on to A+X #3, which I forgot to mention. If you don't want to know what's in these things, just spoilers there. There are, I gotta really do a better card than this, but giving away some stuff in here, so if you don't want to know that, you might want to skip ahead. But I like these so far. They're nice little stories. They're nothing major. It's not like a huge thing where there's a continuation after continuation. It's just a little itty-bitty story. You're kind of like, that's cool, and then they go on to the next. This one had Black Panther and Storm, and Hawkeye and Gambit. And basically with Black Panther and Storm, he takes out AIM. They were trying to take over Wakanda because it was, destroyed by Namor. And apparently he has to pick out a new queen because him and Storm are done, and Storm kind of gets jealous and messes with the weather around there, and it's pretty much it. Hawkeye and Gambit, basically Gambit's at like a theater or something like that, and watching this performance, and this creature comes up out of nowhere, and Gambit tries to save this girl, and Hawkeye does it before him, and they bicker and so on and so forth. But it was cool because they also have another Hunger Games reference in here. He calls him Katniss. Gambit calls Hawkeye Katniss. But they're fun. They're nice little stories. They're pretty cool. I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the next one. Next one apparently is Beast and Spider-Man, so that'd be cool. Moving on to Uncanny X-Force #35, the final issue until next month, which is what one of my rants is definitely going to be about, so I'm going to keep this one to the side to remind me. This one was kind of interesting, too. It shows in the beginning Wolverine in Japan in a graveyard. Basically, he buried his son next to his son's mother. And, says, if I was a different person and I knew you existed, I would have, done things differently. You would have came out differently. And, so Daken from the last, or Daken, I think it's Daken, I don't know how to say his name. Anyway, Wolverine drowns him in a puddle, which I did a review a couple updates ago, which is just a messed up way to go. But you know how people are in the comics, they never stay dead for long. And basically Psylocke is pissed off because Phantom X was, killed, and, a whole big thing. And the funny thing is, you see Deadpool visit the Apocalypse clone, or whatever you want to call him. and they're talking to each other, and the Apocalypse guy says, you know, you're my hero, and you know you're the only person who cared, and all this stuff. And Deadpool, because the Apocalypse Kid or whatever was Apocalypse Kid, there you go. I was reading like a meditation book that Wolverine gave him, and Deadpool was like, you know, I never been called the hero before. I appreciate it, and he goes to leave, and Apocalypse Kid there says, you know, you leave him my book. He's like, oh, he's like, you don't need this. He goes, that's for psychopaths. He goes, I left you something you're gonna get a lot more use out of. And the kid looks down, and it's a whole big thing of nudie magazines. So it was interesting, very interesting indeed. Moving on to FF number 2. Surprise, surprise! The Fantastic Four did not come back in 4 minutes. Uh, but it wasn't a bad book. Like the first one, I tried to hate it, but for some reason I liked it. So I don't know. I liked the artwork. I thought it was kind of interesting, and just the mix of the characters were cool. And I'm like, all right, this could be good. This one was the same way. It was like, you know, you're like, I like it, you know. But it's interesting. I don't know what's with Marvel lately in doing a lot of these like cosmic floating head covers, but what the hell. Moving on to all new X-Men number 4. This, again, this was another thing that was discussed a lot on the podcast. This is just an awesome book so far. Just really, really cool. I'm really enjoying it. Our Dad 95 was saying it's a time travel thing that actually works. And so far they're kicking ass with it. I mean, I'm enjoying reading it. I like seeing the old school X-Men. But the problem I have with it, the only problem I have with it, is I feel that, you know, granted it comes out like weekly, which is kind of a pain in the ass because it's got a $3.99 price tag. And of course it had to be freaking good. But the real problem I have with it is the fact that not only does it come out weekly, which hurts the wallet, but there's this huge possibility to do this really well and make it a really cool X-Men book. But for some reason I have this feeling they're really going to screw it up down the line. Like it's going to probably hit like number 10 or something like that and just suck. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I've been wrong a lot lately, so I'm really praying that they don't screw this time travel thing up. Because I heard the rumors that they were going to keep Jean Grey in this timeline, and this beast is going to stay, and you know, and I was like, oh my god. So I don't know, but it's got potential to kick a lot of ass, and it also has potential to really suck ass. So who knows? Moving on to Thunderbolts number 2. Again, this is another one that people seem to really hate. I don't mind it. It's getting confusing as hell. I mean, it's like the flashback, you know, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, now, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, now, and it just keeps going back and forth. And I'm like, all right, what the hell is going on? Because you're trying to figure out, oh wait, that was weeks ago. All right, now I'm in now. Like Spaceballs, you were in now. Well, when do we get to then? How do we get there? Just now, you know, all that stuff. You know the whole thing. But the one thing that I definitely agree with everybody who was talking on the podcast is that the art on this, everybody's face looks exactly the same. It's disturbing. And like now Venom has a red spider, and the Punisher has a red skull, and of course Elektra goes to show her thunder boobs, and it's just disturbing that she's got the same face as the Red Hulk and the Punisher. She's kind of like, yeah, the Punisher with boobs. But the story, I mean, other than confusing it's I'm still kind of like it a little bit. I'm still going to give it a chance. You know, granted it's $2.99, so it ain't that bad. But yeah, this might be one that I'm going to drop in the future because it's just the art just kind of blows. All right, moving on to Captain America number 2. Alrighty, all right, here we go. The first one, I read it. The whole beginning was awesome. I really liked the flashback with Captain America because it just kind of shows where Captain America came from, like why he is, you know, supposedly the best of us. And I like the flashback things. I think it's cool. And when he was thrown on the planet, I'm like, yeah. But I gotta say, I like this one a lot. I thought this one was really, really cool. So I've done it about face. The art isn't too bad, and the story so far is pretty cool. He's trapped on this planet for a year now, and he's watching over this kid. It's kind of like Cap and Bucky in a roundabout sort of way, like a younger Bucky, I guess. Something like that. But he's trying to keep him and the kid alive, going through this planet that he has no idea. He even says, like, he's been on the planet for a year, and nothing's ever the same. Like, the sun doesn't rise in the same spot, doesn't set in the same spot, so trying to keep time and dates are impossible. Food is a bitch to find, if that, but it was just a cool book. And there's one thing I wanted to go over as I get into another one, a back issue. I know Mr. Fix's Smash is probably going to know this more than anyone else. But if you look at Captain America, I just found it funny because I noticed it as I was looking at Captain Strangelove, one of his videos, and Cougar Comics, when he was showing the Tales of Suspense. Have you ever noticed, and I said, Mr. Fix's Smash, look at this, when you look at the old Captain America, like when he first came around, not the triangle shield, like the first time he had his regular, circle shield. On most of the comics, the shield looked completely flat, like, just, eh. But then when you get, like, towards the end of this, the 70s and into the 80s, they finally learned, I guess, how to make, like, the little dome kind of thing to it. As you can see, like, in the newer one, how it's, I mean, obviously you know what Cap's new shield looks like, but I just found it funny, that, just an observation, I guess, that it's funny how they used to be completely flat, and then people, I guess, learned how to make it better. Which brings me to Captain America and the Falcon, number 153. This wasn't a bad book, actually. It was kind of a cool fight between Captain America and Nick Fury. Very interesting. And moving on to Captain America number 350. This was awesome. This was just really, really cool book. The Cap versus U.S. Agent fight was just flat out amazing. Loved it, man. They were freaking brutal. And of course, like, the Red Skull was resurrected, and he's got, blonde hair and, typical, German race that they wanted to have back then. And nobody knows he's the Red Skull. He looks kind of like Steve Rogers. So I guess, like, he tricks the U.S. agent into thinking he's Steve Rogers. And towards the end, Captain America goes to punch the Red Skull, whatever it is, and the death dust that he keeps in the skull dust or whatever in his cigarette backfires and hits him, so he turns back into the Red Skull. And Captain America gets his old costume back. Very cool. And last but not least on my review, before I get into my rant, is Extreme X-Men number 1. Sucked. I'm glad it was clearance. Anyway. Moving on. Alright. Now, pretty much everyone on this YouTube thing knows I'm a Spider-Man fan, I'm an X-Men fan, always have been, pretty much always will be. What pisses me off, and like I said, I'm getting into a rant about this because it's just amazing. It just kind of, you feel like you get slapped on the face a lot. Like I said, I'm going to use this one as a perfect example. Uncanny X-Force number 35. Final issue. Okay. Number 35 is their final issue. Now, in a month, in January, they have Uncanny X-Force number 1. And then I was hearing and reading on the podcast that they have Uncanny X-Men number 1 coming out soon. I think in January or February. It's... Oh man. Alright. Here's what gets me. You look at DC, okay? Let's take DC for example. We're going to use Batman. DC Comics, almost all of them have never done like a relaunch. Like, Batman went up to 700. I forget what he's up to now. Well, obviously the relaunch, back to number 1. But at least he got up to like 700 plus or whatever it is. So just use that as an example because I can't really remember. But anyway, so you look at DC, you look at Superman, 700, Wonder Woman, 700, not that that's 100% true, but you get my point. Marvel. Spider-Man, great example. Spider-Man gets up to... What did he get up to? Was it 500, give or take? Maybe a little less than 500. And then they switched back to 1. Well, probably a little before 500. I think it was like 4 something, and then they went to 1. And they considered that Volume 2. Then Marvel decides, hey, this is kind of stupid. let's go back to the original numbers. So then they go back, so you say you have like 400 and some odd. Actually, let me see what I had it written down. See if I still have it down here. Bear with me. Ah, there we go. Yeah, so Spidey goes up to 445, and then becomes Volume 2 and goes back to number 1, alright? So, okay, Spidey made up to 400 something plus, yeah. And it goes to Spider-Man number 1. Then, right around Spider-Man number 58, they decide, you know what? Let's go back to the original numbers. So they make it 500. And then he starts from there. So technically, even though it went down to Spider-Man number 1 and now is considered the second volume, it was still Spider-Man, 400 and, something, whatever. And then they switched back, which was the stupidest thing they could have done. They should have just left it alone, but of course Marvel's a greedy bastard. They want to go, hey, you know what? We can sell number 1, so let's get these number 1s pumped out. Okay. Now, you look at Uncanny X-Men. Ever since I was a kid, there's always been Uncanny X-Men. There's always been an Amazing Spider-Man. There's always been certain titles. Marvel's like, you know what? We're done. We're gonna start from scratch. Like I said, I've had this rant before, but this is a different degree. We're gonna start from scratch, do different titles, and kind of switch it up. So you kind of buy it. You're like, all right, well, Marvel's gonna change it up. Like DC kind of did. DC did the New 52 when they started from scratch in a roundabout sort of way, but it kind of continued certain things, and they're whatever. So Uncanny X-Men comes around, and they have their final issue. Yeah, like, all right, no more Uncanny X-Men, at least for a while or something like that. Same thing with dead characters. When characters die in the comics, they don't stay dead a long time. Some do, some don't. I mean, Captain America was gone like a year or something like that. Superman, I think, was gone a couple months. Hawkeye was like gone for like a couple months. The Wasp was dead for years, like a decade. And titles are the same way. Like titles, like some stay dead forever, and some come back later on. But Marvel, it's just amazing. It's like, oh, you know what? Here's the final issue. We're gonna say it again. Final issue of Uncanny X-Force. There aren't going to be any more. Oh, but guess what? We're going to start at number 1 in January. So now Marvel seems to only get to number 35, and then they go, hey, you know what? We can sell a lot of final issues. We'll make it a final issue, and then we'll turn around and sell another number 1 and start all over again. And then when we get to 35, we'll get greedy again, and we'll start another number 1. Jesus. It just... Same thing on Uncanny X-Men. I read it. I liked it. I thought it was cool. And I'm like, all right, it's the end of it. All right, blah, blah, blah. Oh, guess what? We're making another number 1, but it's going to be Cyclops' team. So now the all-new X-Men are going to be, whatever team it is, and then the Uncanny is going to be Cyclops' team. Sneaky bastards. Same thing with Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man now is done at 700, which comes out Wednesday, day after Christmas. That's a fun, how do you do? But it's like, oh, we're done. That's it. Amazing Spider-Man is over. There is no more. Superior Spider-Man, don't get me wrong, does look interesting because I want to see what they're going to do. But from the preview I read, it looks kind of stupid in a way because you see the preview and Spider-Man's like, he's fighting supervillains. He's like, oh, how did Parker ever do this? And he's getting his ass kicked. And then decides, he's like, oh, the hell with this, and just leaves. And the villain's like, what the hell's going on? He's like, I'm out of here. See ya. It's like, really? Is that how we're going to do this book? So again, I could be wrong, but I don't see Superior Spider-Man really lasting. It might, but I don't see it going past obviously 35, because that seems to be Marvel's magic number. And they're going to bring back another Amazing Spider-Man and start with number 1, and they're going to start that all over again because now you bought the final issue, and then it's like in 3 months, 4 months from now, it's like, hey, look, Amazing Spider-Man number 1, we got you. We were just kidding. Oh, man. Just annoying. Yeah, that pisses me off, though. I mean, if you're going to destroy a title, at least give it some time out. Like, I mean, that sounds probably stupid, but if you get rid of Uncanny X-Force, get rid of it. Or, if you're going to do another number 1, wait a year, or wait 6 months or 7 months, then do it. Don't friggin' put out the final issue in December and then have number 1 come out a month later. That's just an evil frickin' thing to do. And it wasn't that great to begin with for me to really even give a rat's ass really about Uncanny X-Force. But Uncanny X-Men, that's another one. Chances are I will buy number 1. Damn you, Marvel! Yeah, Marvel, I've always said it, I'm a huge Marvel fan. Since I was a kid, that's all I read. You know, DC I'm kind of recent on. DC, I think I started in like 2003. I started really collecting DC. I mean, I did have some DC before, way before that, but it's when I really kind of started to get into DC more than I was. But Marvel, man, it just seems like they're. Granted, I know they were taken over by Disney and all that stuff, but they're just turning evil. It's like, oh, let's pump everything out every week now, instead of month. You know, let's really destroy your wallet, and oh, let's end a series and make another number 1 every friggin' 2 weeks. Jesus, Marvel. You know what? If Marvel was watching this, anyone working for Marvel, here's what you do. Take a cue from DC. Get your title up to 700 or whatever it is you want to go. Even go up to, like, DC I think should have went up to like 900 and say 999 and then went to 1. You know, instead of 1,000 or 1,000 issue, whatever. Then go to 1. Do that. Don't friggin' make a title up to the like 35th issue or 100th issue and then say, you know what, we're done. We're not going to do this title anymore. And then a month later go, well, here's number 1 again. We're going to start all over. That pisses me off. So learn, Marvel. Learn. Do what DC did. Go for a long time like you were doing. Marvel, when they started until, like, you know, obviously the 90s, they kicked ass. They knew what they were doing. They weren't screwing around with this .1 crap or .2. Or, hey, you know, it's up to 405. Let's go down to 1. And then get up to certain issues and then cancel it or go up to certain and go back to the original numbers. Because Spider-Man is totally messed up because of that. Oh, God, Marvel. Yeah. Anyway, this rant is long enough as it is. Another discussion. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. Yay. Chances are we'll be doing another update on that because of the holiday. I'm going to do a nice little holiday episode because I'm almost done with a couple more comics, so I'll do another review. But also, this isn't for tomorrow, but this is for maybe like a week or 2, give or take, when the holiday stuff is kind of done. I believe I've gotten all the bugs out of the Hangout stuff, so I will be doing a Cracka Live episode. The discussion, basically, I'm probably gonna talk about some Spider-Man and what Marvel, and, you know, kind of what I talked about here, or amongst other things. But if you would like to be on my Cracka Live episode coming around, let me know. Let me know. Throw me a comment. Say, hey, I'd love to be on the show. Chances are, like I said, I'm probably gonna do it after the new year. We'll start the new year off right with a Cracka Live. It's a good promo. So if you want to be on the show, you got some time, you can, you know, let me know in the comments or message me or whatever you want to do. And hopefully if I get everything correct and I know what the hell I'm doing, you could be on it with me and we'll banter back and forth about all sorts of fun things. So, anyway, if you like what you see, please hit the like button. If you really like what you see, hit the subscribe button. And, I think I have a quote around here. Actually, I swear, I'm losing my mind half the time when I'm trying to, like, you know, you get on a rant and you're kind of thinking about something, you're like, But I want to thank, one of my newest subscribers. I'm going to, hopefully I say this right. Skillzilla84. Yeah, I said it right. Woohoo! I appreciate you subscribing. Thanks a lot. And, I think that was all the subscribers I had, which is cool. Well, not all the subscribers, but the newer ones. Anyway, it's not the size of your man cave that matters. It's what you have in it. Later.